Hello friends, hope you are all well. My name is Diya Rattanpal. I am your Equality and Diversity Executive for this incoming year. I sit at the Students' Union and my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. You can call me whatever you'd like. My job here at the Students' Union is to ensure that everything at university has an equality, diversity, and inclusion embedded into it. I'm there to make sure that all students feel represented, respected, and celebrated. And I'm here to be that friendly face on campus for when you guys do arrive. Any questions that you might have, whether to do with the university or the union, different societies, sports clubs, or anything that you might have, even about Leicester, I am that face on campus that you can come and ask. I know it is now Thursday, so you have had 3 days of freshers already, and you've met some of the other lovely execs. I hope it's been really lovely meeting them, but you are officially meeting the best executive. That is me. But today, before I start talking too much about myself, we have two very lovely guests with us. We have Chris Hall and Kenetta Hammond-Perry. Give us a wave, guys. And today we'll be talking about all things EDI. We found it's really important for you guys as incoming students who are fresh and new to the university to know all the work that we're doing behind the scenes. I think now more so than ever, it's really important for us to be having those discussions and talking about things that possibly institutions such as ourselves would shy away from or possibly would not bring up to the public eye. But now's the time, and I think it's really important that we are having these conversations. Chris and Kenetta are not usually people you guys would know straight away, and it's really important that that changes because they are so important to our institution and ensuring that we are as inclusive as possible. I'm gonna lead over to Chris to give yourselves a little introduction and for you to kind of get welcomed in. Hello, Chris.
Hi, everyone. So as Diya says, my name is Chris Hall. I'm the head of Equality and Diversity at DMU, and together the university and the Students' Union work really hard to try and make sure that we're as inclusive as we can be as a university for you as students, but also for staff. So at DMU, you might not immediately see it and feel it because of the circumstances of this year, but we're a really diverse institution. Over half of our students come from identify as coming from a Black or Asian minority ethnic background. Around 1 in 5 of our students declare a disability, and we are incredibly diverse. So it's my job working with DSU and Diya to try and make sure that we're getting it right for all our different groups of students. Ways that you can get involved. So there's different DSU student societies and groups, so different religious societies, there's the LGBT plus society, loads of different societies that may align with your identity that you can get involved with and work with. From my perspective, what I'm really interested in doing is that making sure from a kind of a strategy point of view as a university, we're taking account of all your differing needs. So my contact details will be shared later. If you've got a query or concern, get in touch with me or Diya, and we can talk about it and look out for opportunities through the year as well for ways to get involved with shaping our equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. Coming up this year, we'll be launching our new EDI strategy that sets out some of the targets that we want to try and get right, that we want to try and meet for you guys. So things around making sure that you're continuing from year to year, that your degree outcomes are the best that we can help you be, and thinking about what that means in terms of your different identities and how you engage with the university is really what I'm interested in engaging with you about and making sure that as a university we get right. So over to you, Diya.
Thank you so much, Chris. And you mentioned so many great things that the university are doing. I will definitely be picking up on those later, if that's okay with you. No pressure at all. And I'll head over to Kenetta Hammond-Perry to talk about her role.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm Kenetta Hammond-Perry. I'm the director of the Stephen Lawrence Research Center at DMU, and I'm also a historian by training. The Stephen Lawrence Research Center is a new research center at DMU, and I think many of you might first say, what does a research center have to do with me? Well, we're a research center that really focuses on bringing conversations about race and social justice to DMU and really making those conversations front and center. And I would imagine anyone thinking about the last couple of months and sort of thinking about the world in the last couple of months would really agree that we have to have these conversations about race and social justice. And we are one of the places at DMU that shows the commitment to that at your university. I'm really excited to welcome you to campus. One of the things that in normal circumstances we would be welcoming you to is our exhibition space in the Stephen Lawrence Research Center. And our exhibition space is a really unique space that introduces you to the story of Stephen Lawrence. And Stephen Lawrence was an 18-year-old Black teenager who was actually murdered in a racist attack in the early 1990s. And what our center does is really uses his story, a story about race, to kind of show the ways that a family fought for justice on his behalf. And so in normal circumstances, we would be looking forward to welcoming you into our exhibition space. And I'm hoping that, very soon there will be an opportunity to do that so you can learn more about Stephen Lawrence's story and actually, think about the ways that it inspires change on campus. As you're arriving onto campus, university is a time to sort of think critically about what you want to do in the world, what you care about in the world. And we're hoping that the Stephen Lawrence Research Center and your experience at DMU is a place that you get to think a lot more about, how you want to be a change agent in the world. What are some issues that you want to see look different in the world that you want to be a part of as you leave university? And so we're one of those places on campus where you can have those conversations openly and sort of in a very safe space to do that. So we're very proud of having that space on campus. Some of the things that we have coming up soon that might be of interest to you in terms of the launch of Black History Month. We have a program that we're gearing up for later on this month that's going to be focused on looking at race and Blackness in the media. And we're going to be looking at, thinking about and having those conversations about, representations in the media like Chadwick Boseman, and sort of conversations about Black Panther, and thinking about the legacy of that film in the wake of all the conversations that came up out of Chadwick Boseman's death. And we're also going to be talking about some of the ways in which, we can think about how conversations about race are happening in the media. So we're just really excited as a center to welcome you to campus, and looking forward to hopefully having our doors open soon to you all at the Stephen Lawrence Research Center. So again, just welcome and excited to have you all on campus soon.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, both of you. And thank you so much for being a part of this. It's so important, as I mentioned earlier, to the students, but also to me. I think it's really important that we, as a students' union, start making those moves to having those conversations on race and social justice, but also ensuring that we have a platform available for students to talk to us, and also for you guys as staff and myself as an executive. However, the question I'm going to go to first is, how are you guys? Just how are you? It's been a really tough few months. COVID, there's been so much going on in the world around us, and we're going into a brand new academic year, which is going to be marking history. This is going to be a first for so many thousands of students around, especially if you're coming onto campus and you are doing a full year, and we are inviting students to come back to campus. How are you guys coping with it? I'll come to you first, Kenetta, and then we'll go to Chris, if that's okay, afterwards.
Yeah, it's a strange time. But I think, I'm trying to sort of lean into how it makes us do certain things differently, and maybe think in ways that and connect with people in different ways. So even though, I can only imagine what it means to start university in this kind of context, and all the different things and expectations that we typically have about what a university experience should be. But I do think, we're still at a moment where we can just sort of think differently about how that university experience might look. But, as for myself, I think my team and I, we've been working remotely for the last couple of months, but we've kind of leaned into that a little bit. And sort of for us, it's caused us to think differently about how we can use like virtual platforms differently to speak to wider audiences. We recognize again that, with being the Stephen Lawrence Research Center and being a center that's sort of trying to have these conversations about race, that these conversations are so important to a much wider audience beyond the university. So we've kind of embraced a bit of the kind of, work from home and kind of working virtually. And it's allowed us to kind of, speak differently to different and wider audiences. So we're hoping that with new students coming in, that we can bring them into those conversations as well. And so we're kind of, hopeful that, it will open up different kinds of opportunities to connect, but also, just very aware that, in terms of expectations, it's a different, landscape. And some of that is noticeable, and you feel, the kind of disconnection that we normally would have in terms of being able to connect with colleagues on campus, welcome students into our center. But I still think there's still a lot to look forward to in terms of this new academic year.
Absolutely. It really, really is. And I'm so glad that you mentioned actually that it's allowing us to target an audience that we possibly wouldn't have had if we were in person. Oh my God, apologies. But I think one of the greatest things that's come from it is, even from an executive perspective, where we've been working from home since March now, and we're in October. It's been some very crazy times that we've had, but actually our student engagement rates have gone up exponentially. We've been able to kind of talk to students that we would never see setting foot in the campus. I was a student that wouldn't really be coming in, but if you've got me online or if you've got me on social media, I love it. It's exactly what I go for. So I'm really glad to see that you're embracing it, and there are students that are looking so forward to it. And again, students that are incoming, please know that you have this opportunity to kind of get in touch with us on our social medias, via emails. You can drop us a message wherever you kind of want, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You don't even have to put on pajamas if you don't want. And I think that is the joy of working from home. No one knows what I'm wearing underneath. Could be pajama bottoms, could be a full suit. Those are the joys. Chris, how about you? How are you finding it all working from home? Oh, you're muted currently.
There we go. So a few vagrancies with the technology. Obviously, remembering to unmute myself is one of the key things that I've struggled with. But it's been interesting, hasn't it? And I think some of the points that you've made, Diya, and Kennetta yourself as well, that there's actually been loads more opportunities to engage with people who we wouldn't otherwise engage with. So we've been doing a lot of work with a state college in Georgia, actually, and drawing networks between their Black students and our Black students here on campus, which has been really, really interesting to forge those relationships with everything that's been going on in the wake of George Floyd. So that's been really interesting. And I think engaging with some of the events that we've got is actually easier as well. So we're still running lots of online kind of conferences or discussion forums. And I'd really encourage you to look out for those opportunities to engage with them. Certainly Kenetta's Research Centre is running a whole series of programs. And there's something that we're doing here at DMU called Decolonising DMU, which is really kind of breaking down the history, the colonial history that universities are built upon, to make sure that they make sense for our students and our staff of the 21st century. So do look out for those opportunities to engage as well. And certainly from my perspective, attending online events has been great, because you can listen, you can ask the questions. They're much more accessible to get to. You can dip in and out of them in a way that you can't in sort of physical events and physical things. So yeah, do look out for those opportunities. I think there's challenges, and I think it would be wrong of us not to say that there are challenges. And I know for you guys, they're coming to campus or not coming to campus, coming to university but not being on campus as much as you might otherwise be. Forging those friendships and those relationships it is difficult. So again, I'd say look out for those opportunities through the DSU to join one of the networks or one of the societies, because it's not.
Oh, we seem to have a little bit of.
As always. So just one of the things I forgot to mention in my sort of introduction is we have events around Black History Month taking place in October. We run a big Pride Festival in February for our LGBT staff and students and allies, and we do quite a lot around International Women's Day in March as well. So it'd be great to see some of those events.
Amazing. And I'm really, really glad that you mentioned the Pride International Women's Day and so many of the different events. We actually had Pride go by not too long ago. It was September 4th is what it would have been had we had the actual event, but luckily DMU made it into a week-long project, and I got to work with yourselves, Chris and Antonia, and DMU, but I also got to work with Uni of Leicester and Loughborough University to have those discussions on inclusive teaching and what it means to be queer during the time of Corona, because there are so many students and staff, I should say, who are either not out or going back home to a family that that might not accept them for who they are. So it's been a really, really tough time for them as well. I was really, really fortunate to talk to some students from Uni of Leicester SU, and although they beat us in a quiz, which DSU, you have to do a bit better next time, come on, please. Although they beat us in a quiz, they left some really good comments about actually how it's been really nice for them to talk to other queer people after so many months of not interacting with them. And it's something that I think I ended up taking for granted or for privileged, that actually we have access to really good internet connection. I'm sat here in a room where I can have these conversations with yourselves, but there's loads of students that haven't been. So again, this is another one of the reasons we really wanted to do something like this, because it allows students to see that we are here and we're still listening, and that you can get in touch with us and join in. Chris, it looks like you're about to say something there.
Yeah, Dick, on that point, please. Yeah, so I mean, I think I'd just like to say that, we try to get it right at DMU, and hopefully you'll have all seen the short introduction video around how seriously we take EDI at DMU. But sometimes we don't get it right, and sometimes, other students or other staff do things that kind of does fall short of our expectations. So it's just want to sort of set out now this commitment that if you do witness or see something that does sort of, doesn't sit right, falls sort of, short of the expectations of how we should treat each other with dignity and respect, there are mechanisms which we can address that, and we will take any kind of complaint around harassment really, really seriously. So I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, please don't be afraid to shout, to come and speak to us about it.
Absolutely, and you've segued really, really nicely into some of the things that are coming this year. I think No Space for Hate is one of the biggest. It's an initiative that we're launching, or that DMU are launching, to ensure that we kind of have a set program and set principles for incidents like this. Although we never want to see them happen, sometimes they do, unfortunately. And just like we have a mandala in place which looks at sexual violence and people who have been under sexual abuse or sexual duress, which is really, really scary. We've been one of the sector leads in forming a mandala group and having those trained specialists and train the trainer, and bringing in an active bystander scheme. And it's been so empowering for students to know that they have this safe space, and we're bringing that with so many other different things as well in regards to harassment and No Space for Hate. I don't know, Chris, if you feel confident talking a little bit about No Space for Hate and some of those things that we're looking to introduce.
Yeah, of course. So as Diya says, we will be launching No Space for Hate really shortly, and that's really our very public statement and commitment around stamping out behaviour that does create an intimidating or hostile environment, from small microaggressions right through to more serious incidences. So in a few weeks, the publicity will come around, you'll get information around it, but that will set out, all sorts of things around the behaviours that we expect of students and staff, but also where you can seek support if things do go wrong, or if you do witness or are unfortunately a victim of hate or harassment. We want to know about it, because unless we know about it, we can't do anything about it. So please do look out for that and engage. But on the really positive side as well, what we hope through No Space for Hate is to really help empower our students to support the right behaviours and challenge those behaviours that we see that have become, or some behaviours that have become sort of intrinsic or indoctrinated in parts of society that we just don't want to see here at DMU. So No Space for Hate is a really great piece of work that we'll be doing. But just to reinforce what Diya said as well, for very serious cases of things like sexual assault and sexual harassment, there is the Mandala project as well. So we have trained advisors and trained people to support when things do go wrong. So you can access all of that through the student support web pages. But I hope none of that happens and you don't see, or you're not a victim of that. But for you to know that we are taking this very seriously at DMU.
Exactly. We hope no one ever has to kind of use it or even know of it, but I think it is really comforting in knowing that DMU has taken the initiatives and have been one of the first universities and institutions to actually acknowledge what happens around us and having those set departments where they specialize in this. And I think, in my perspective as a student, it's quite nice to just know that in the back of my head we always have safety on campus and that safety is our priority. Kennetta, I wanted to come to you, if that's okay, and talk a little bit about Stephen Lawrence Research Centre. As you said, it's a very, very new project to DMU. It's very new. And as the executives last year, we were really, really lucky to have been able to kind of visit the Research Centre and the Exhibition Centre. And it had me in tears. I ended up sitting there I spent around 4 hours there because I was sobbing uncontrollably, but also because it gave me that reality check. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about it, and I'm sure that there's many students, especially international students, who possibly might not know of where this stems from and where this came from.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important center in terms of the history that it tells about Stephen Lawrence's case. Thinking about, again, the events from the last summer, Chris mentioned George Floyd. And I think what the Stephen Lawrence exhibition space does is it puts a lot of that into context to say that this is not new. These histories of racial violence, these histories of sort of anti-Black racism, aren't new. They've been ongoing, they've been persisting. And so, what do we do with that? Like, how do we sort of acknowledge and sort of understand that? And then how does that inform, how our activism in the present and what are our demands for what kind of a future that we want to see, and how do we want to build a more just world? And I think the exhibition space at DMU is intentionally designed to kind of get students to ask those questions and to engage in those questions. And I think it's a really amazing space to think that a university has invested in, because we just know throughout the sector in the UK that universities are not necessarily on the cutting edge of being the spaces where conversations about race and racism are sort of front and center. And what DMU is sort of saying well before this summer, where these conversations got a lot more visibility, what DMU said were that these were important conversations. And I think it's a recognition that we have a very diverse student body that is sort of thinking about these issues and needs a world that works, justly for them. Chris shared some of those statistics about our student communities, and we have a student community where the world doesn't always work on their behalf. We have, interventions around like Mandala, and all of these programs are there because we recognize as an institution that people need to be supported, that the world as we would like it to be for a lot of people isn't quite working in the way that it should. And so you are seeing things like, racial harassment, sexual harassment, microaggressions, and sort of seeing that kind of hostile environment for different communities on a number of vectors, not just around questions of race, but also questions of gender and sexuality, disability, sort of capacity around.
Oh, Kenetta seems to have frozen. But in the meantime, I will carry on and hope that she makes a swift join back to the group. I was going to ask you, Chris, anyway, about a lot of the backstage stuff that we do. In that, actually, DMU offers a host of scholarships. DMU is, please forgive me if I'm wrong, but is it a silver at Athena Swan that we've been awarded?
So we're a bronze Athena Swan holder. So that's a gender equality charter for higher education. So a lot of universities take part in it, and we're a bronze award holder of that, which basically means that, we are working really hard towards gender equality, but we recognise that there's still some, there's still some challenges that we need to overcome. Things like, our professors. They're not gender balanced. We have more male professors than we do female professors, and that's something that we want to try and address, so that our staff body looks like our student body. But we're also a bronze race charter award holder as well, and we were the first institution in the country to have that renewed.
Wow.
And again, we recognise that we've got challenges around race and race disparity. Again, things like representation, but also degree awarding as well. That as I said at the beginning, we want all of our students to have sort of equity in outcome as we do our staff, and that's something that we're working really hard to. And in the way, that's what my job is, dear. It's about helping the university think through the challenges that we've got and how we're going to respond to them. There was something else that I thought there, but it slipped my mind. So you carry on talking, dear, and if it comes back to me, I'll come back.
Yeah, of course. Please jump in. I think one of the things is, I think it's really cool that we have these awards, and I think it's really, really important that as a university, not only have we acknowledged that that's the direction that we need to go in, but we've also acknowledged that there's a lot more work to be done, which I think it sometimes goes amiss with other institutions and universities, is the acknowledgement that we are constantly, this work is constantly in motion, and that every year there's more for us to do and more challenges that will come our way, but the acknowledgement that we as an institution together will be looking to overcome it.
Just to say, dear, and to you guys watching us today, thank you for watching as well. What we want to try and do is to create an environment where you can be who you want to be. And really, if you take one takeaway from today, please take that. So, regardless of your gender, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, whether or not your gender identity that you assigned at birth is something that you would now want to continue to live in, choices are yours to make here at DMU, and we want to provide that environment for you to be able to be who you want to be. So, take that away, and all these sorts of things that here today in terms of the awards that we've got. Yeah, there's awards, but ultimately this is about you, and this is about your journey and being who you want to be. So if we can do things, if there's things that you think we can be doing better, that's what we want to know about from you. But I hope that we're getting some of it right for you, and I hope that you enjoy your years here.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's really important that you did mention that, Chris, and I really thank you for that. I want to say from my perspective, I'm an Asian student. I have a Hindi dad and a Sikh Hindi mum and a Sikh dad, and it's been really, really interesting. I'm queer. I question my gender identity on a daily basis, and I'm in an interracial relationship. That covers a lot of those intersectionality points, and I've always lived in fear until I came to DMU. DMU has been one of the only institutions where I've felt welcomed, I felt accepted, and I felt free to be who I wanted to be. And I think that is so, so important. And thank you, Chris, because you've been doing this work long before I started university, and you've allowed me and countless other students that I've met along the way to kind of be in this sphere and this bubble of feeling protected and safe. So thank you so, so much for that. I have to say it. I have heard from our lovely producer backstage that Kennetta is back. So let's try and see if we can get her in. Hello again.
Hello, I'm sorry about that.
Not at all. This is the joys of working from home. I think everyone can appreciate how it goes. I will let you carry on. You were talking about the importance of everything.
I have no idea where I left off, where I went blank. But essentially, my main message is that I think that the Stephen Lawrence Research Center really just demonstrates DMU's commitment to really putting questions that are oftentimes not talked about as much as we should around race and racism and social justice kind of front and center, and creating, a real space for students to have those questions and to be curious and to sort of explore some of that history that provides the context for understanding some of the things that we've, really seen over the last couple of months in terms of some of the movements around racial justice in the UK, but also, more globally. And I think that part of the role of the center at the university is to sort of give students that space to have those sometimes difficult and uncomfortable conversations, but to do so in a way that they can explore and learn and figure out their own sort of take on some of these issues.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for mentioning that and bringing up those points. I have to ask, if a student was interested in learning more about the SLRC, what's the best way for them to do so, especially now that we're in an online world?
Probably the best way to do it. We're on social media. We have a really active social media thread with on the Stephen Lawrence Research Center. You can find us on Twitter. We also have a website that links up to some of the things that some of the projects that we're doing. And so you can definitely sort of email through the website to get added to our listserv, which kind of sends you and keeps you up to date on everything. But I would say for most students, you're not going to send us an email to get on a listserv. So just check us out on Twitter and you would find out a lot more about what's going on and what kind of conversations we're having.
Amazing.
Oh, great.
And link below.
There you go.
Chris, if students wanted to get in touch with yourself or your team, is there an email or someone that they could talk to? How does it work for you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, probably they would come to you first, Diya, in a sense, because, the student voice. There's myself and Antonia in the EDI team, so we're quite a small team. So if we can pop the equality@DMU email address in the chat, then that would be good. So students can email us, but I think the best way normally would be through yourselves or through some of the events and celebration events that we run through the year.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I forgot to mention is, as the executive at the Students' Union, one of my roles is liaising with the university side and ensuring that the comments from students are sent across and heard. There we go. We've got the email just below there. It is always so confusing to me that the screens are rotated. I never know which way I'm going, but you get the gist. I think really shortly we're going to wrap up. It's been a fantastic conversation, and I think you've brought a lot of key topics to the forefront of students' minds, and I think that again that is so needed, and that they absolutely have to be had. It is October 1st today, and it is the launch of our Black History season. And my question for you guys is, not only what can we expect in the next month, but what can we expect for the next year? And I'm not putting pressure on you to give us a whole schedule or calendar, because I know we are working through some very, very difficult times. But just a rough overview, if that's okay. Kennetta, would it be okay if I come to you first?
Sure. I think in many ways, a lot of the kind of conversations that typically get launched in Black History Month are our everyday business at the Stephen Lawrence Research Center. So really, a lot of the conversations are sort of thinking about histories and cultures of Black communities in the UK. That's sort of part of the work that we do in an ongoing way throughout the year. In terms of, I mentioned, we're going to do a webinar that is very much student oriented on our new channel called The Exchange later on this month. And again, that's going to be looking at these questions of race and representation in the media. In the next month, actually, one of the interesting things that links up to, again, themes related to Black history, which again, we carry throughout the entire year. We're going to be partnering with an organization called Leading Roots to deliver another kind of web-based event that's called Black in Academia, and sort of looking at the experiences of Black students in the university, but also thinking about how Black students and representation of Black academic staff. So how do we create pipelines to get Black students who are oftentimes underrepresented in terms of moving on to postgraduate careers that then might get them to think about becoming lecturers and becoming professors in academia. And so we're trying to sort of launch that conversation about how you might want to think about what you're studying, and not just think about it in terms of the job after university, but actually maybe that you want to come back and actually teach that course for the next generation of students moving forward. So those are some of the events that we have coming up in 2020. And I'm just looking forward to hoping that more students can engage in those conversations.
That is some fantastic stuff. I'm so excited, and I will be sure to join as many of those webinars as I can. What we'll also be doing for the people at home, we are more than happy to make sure that we share all the links as well to ensure that it hits as many students as possible. I just really quickly wanted to touch on the representation issue, because I think it's so important in that we are a majority of minorities as a university, yet it's one of the biggest things we've been talking about is ensuring that students have that visual representation of who they see at a higher level and how important that can be. So again, I just wanted to thank you for that. And I think it's some really great work that's coming through. And students that are incoming, I really do hope you get involved and engaged with the SLRC, and also with myself, and therefore into Chris's work, because I think really make some progress with where DMU is. And I really want us to be the sector leaders on equality, diversity and inclusion before I leave. So please help me make it happen. Chris, how about yourself? Any plans for the near future?
Well, I think the key thing is we'll be launching our new EDI strategy, which I mentioned earlier, and that really is going to set out in stone what we're going to be doing as an institution and our targets that we're looking at. And that includes things like representation of staff and students as well as, making sure that we get things right, creating the positive culture where students can be themselves, and sort of setting out the mechanisms for redress when things don't go right. So that's, I'm really excited about that moving forward. The other thing that we've not mentioned very much this afternoon or this morning, is decolonising DMU, and that is I've mentioned it briefly, but if we can pop that in the chat as well, there's a great opportunities to get involved as students there, students of colour and white students, because what's really important in all this work is we have allies as well. I'm a white man, but I'm absolutely passionate about gender equality, about racial equality. It's why I do what I do. So don't please just think that because you're a particular identity, you can't get involved and support the work that is effectively going to make our university and our society better for everybody. I think I'll leave it there, dear.
Brilliant. Honestly, guys, thank you so much. And to touch on decolonising DMU, it's there. And in the very next stream, we'll be talking to Mark Prescott, who is all about decolonising DMU, and we'll get the 411 on everything that it does. I've been really lucky to have been a part of it since its formation, since before it was even called decolonising DMU. So it's been really amazing to see how much it's grown and how important it is to us as an institution now. Finally, I just wanted to say thank you to both Chris and Kennetta for being here and having this discussion. It's not always the easiest doing lives like this and StreamYards, and I for one always get very nervous when I'm talking. I'm sure you've been able to hear me mess up so many times, but you guys have spoken so passionately and eloquently about the stuff that you do, and I think it's something that will really hit home to our incoming students, but also our returning students who possibly might have gone through a few years of university without knowing all the amazing facilities and departments that we have here. So thank you so much for shining a light on all the wonderful work we do here. And I would like honestly, I would just like to, I don't even have the words for it right now. I'm really looking forward to the year ahead. It's going to be a weird one, but I'm looking forward to how the DSU interacts with each of you guys and ensuring that we do the best thing we can for our students. But I will love you and leave you and let our lovely producer Sophie at the back end this call. And to the students that are watching at home, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, friends.